You know, this is that time in a seminar or a weekend, you get to that Saturday afternoon or that last half of the seminar. And you hopefully have compiled this list of things that you've heard, speakers that you've heard, you know, nuggets of information, things you know that you need to go do, like Dr. Austin was just talking about. And that list could be a lot of things. That list could be, for each one of us, it would be different. Some of you have a book of things, right? Some of you have 2 or 3 things. But one thing for sure that will happen is when you go back to implement, which again, that would be our goal. We're getting in that. We're starting to make promises to ourselves. I'm going to do this Monday morning right away. I promise you, I guarantee you, and what I want to talk about today is that whatever that thing or those things that you've decided to go do, when you go to do them, you will meet resistance. You heard some great information from Dr. Sullivan earlier about research. If you were here for Dr. Chestnut on Friday morning, you heard some just amazing stuff. And what happens to us is this. We hear this incredible information. We hear these miracles. We hear these powerful stories. And we think we're going to go and we're going to do that. We're going to share that information. We're going to talk about what happens to the brain when you get adjusted. We're going to talk about the power. We're going to talk about lifetime care for everyone. And then that patient, they weren't here, right? That family member, that friend, that doctor, that whatever, that family, they weren't here. And what happens is you come at them in maybe a perfect way in a sense, right? Telling them everything that you learned, sharing your heart, being authentic. And the crazy part is, in like any relationship, they can just look at you and say, I think you're flipping crazy. Right? They can look at you and say, you know what, I think me and my family are going to get care elsewhere. They can look at you and say, I don't believe that. And this is the part sometimes that we don't want to talk about, but we have to talk about, because if we don't learn how to overcome that resistance, then here's what happens after that. We get meek, we pull back, we stop sharing, and by Wednesday of next week, we're actually almost worse off because we're more beaten up because we finally stuck our neck out there, right? We started teaching and preaching the principle the way we should, but we didn't realize the resistance that would come with doing that. So what I want to talk about is overcoming resistance, but I want to be particular about that. Overcoming resistance and sharing the principle. Sharing and teaching the principle. Because that is really all I care about. There couldn't be a bigger compliment to me for Dr. Gorman to say he's a chiropractor. Damn right I'm a chiropractor. I am a straight up, hardcore, pure, 100% straight chiropractor. All right? And I have one job only, and I would suggest if you're a chiropractor, you have one job only. Get the big idea, all else follows. You have one job only. That is to teach the principle. Because all the other stuff downstream that even is vitalistic, it doesn't make sense until they understand vitalism and until they understand the principle. It doesn't make sense. Then there's never been somebody that says, understand nutrition and all else follows. Understand detoxification and all else follows. Understand electric stuff on your back and all else follows. It doesn't all else follow like that. It doesn't all else follow. It's the big idea, so we can't skip that. It has to start there. So here's what's crazy, and this might surprise you. I get into chiropractic school, and I was not like this, all right? I was actually 70 pounds heavier than I am. I was on 2 medications, and I was sick, and I was suffering. And I didn't know what was going on. I got into chiropractic because I wanted to help people, and I wanted to use my hands. Seemed like a good fit. Been to chiropractors a few times, cracked my neck when it hurt. When I had gotten sick, I believe it or not, I was actually training for the 96 games here in Atlanta. I was a boxer. And I'm at the training center in Colorado Springs, and I, quote, get sick, right? Having all these digestive issues, go to the medical doctors, they scan me, find out I have precancerous lesions all throughout my digestive tract. I don't care how old you are when you hear that, right? Freaks you out, you don't know what to do. I'm stuck in the medical model, don't know. They put me on a drug, it shuts down my digestive system. I gained 70 pounds very quickly. I don't know if you know much about boxing, but there's weight classes. And when you go from 165 pounds to 240 pounds, you're not in that weight class anymore. I went from light heavy to super heavy. I didn't want to fight super heavy. All right, so I got kicked out of the program. Ended my Olympic dream, if you will. So I ended up in chiropractic. And I heard a doctor at the chiropractic school that I went to, believe it or not, I went to Northwestern. And there's a dean at this university, there's a president at this university, vice president university, Dr. Rob Scott. Those of you that know Dr. Rob Scott, an amazing man. He was my dean at the time. Saved my life in many ways by being willing to teach the principle. Well, I went to this one doctor that I saw, and I was too nervous to ask him to be my chiropractor, but I figured whoever he trusted with his spine would be one worth, I would want that guy. So I asked him who his doctor was. He told me the name. I made an appointment. I went in there. This is the chiropractic miracle part. Literally get a very specific chiropractic adjustment, which hopefully everybody in this room provides. I get off my medications in a week. I lose 70 pounds in 6 months. Changes my life. Changed my life. So here I have now the chiropractic miracle story. From that, the doctor also taught me the big idea. Started reading the green books, even at Northwestern. It was great because they were free because they gave them away at the library because they didn't want them in their library. So that's how I got my green books. Started the philosophy club there. Wish that was a joke. I started the philosophy club there. Started learning from field doctors. I was on fire for chiropractic. I had the chiropractic miracle. And then I was going to go to my town and blow it up. But what I did instead was I went to my town and went bankrupt. Okay? I didn't go to my town like some of these superstars in here and, Dr. Austin and others. They go in and they open up and the masses start filing in because they're so amazing and they're great at business and being super relevant. I wasn't that. So for 4 years, I struggled and struggled and struggled, and it was getting to the point that they were going to be shutting down my office. We were losing everything. I remember turning off my answering machine because I didn't want to hear any more messages from the collecting agency. I was just waiting in my office. I remember seeing patients. There wasn't a lot of patients, obviously. I remember seeing the few patients that I was and waiting for somebody to walk through the door to take the keys to the clinic away. I loved chiropractic. I loved the principle. I loved everything about it. It saved my life. But I could not figure out how to bridge that gap to get other people to get it. Somebody said it yesterday. I don't remember who it was, but it wasn't something from the start. The principle isn't, then this is the first thing I want to talk to you about with resistance. The principle is not yours. You need to write that one down for yourself just to resonate on. The principle is not yours. Let me tell you what I mean by that. You didn't discover it, you didn't create it, you didn't make the biological laws that it is, you didn't create innate, right? Long before your time will be here long after our time, right? It's important for us to see that, and the other thing you need to remember about it, the principle specifically that will help you overcome the resistance, is that it's perfect. Perfect. The principle is perfect. Perfect. It's perfect and it's not yours. It's perfect and it's not yours. What does this mean? How does this make sense? Think about that. If you know and understand something that is perfect and it's not yours, you have the ability, the luxury, the honor, the responsibility to teach people, to show people this thing that's perfect, that can do amazing things in their life. Yes? And it's not yours. You just get to almost stand to the side and say, I need to tell you about this thing right here called the principle of above, down, inside out. God's laws of health and healing. Innate, vitalism, the principle. However you want to talk about it, however you need to stay relevant, that's your job to teach that. It's not yours, so when you do hit the resistance, you don't take it personal because they're talking about this thing over there, which, by the way, since you know it's perfect, that allows that separation as far as when they resist it, you're understanding, but it's perfect. The problem is they don't yet know that. And even when you tell them it's perfect, by the way, that doesn't mean they go, oh, thanks for telling me it's perfect. Now I won't doubt it anymore. It doesn't work like that. But you're understanding it like that. You're understanding it like that. Now, if you have those two things, if you get a grasp on those two things, all right, that it's perfect, and that it's not yours, the third thing, and there's only three, the third thing is this thing right here. And this is what happened in my office. This is what happened when I was losing everything. I knew I was always going to raise my family, principled, right? Above, down, inside out, adjust them. But I was at the point where I was trying to figure out what my next career was going to be to pay my bills. Loved chiropractic. I mean, I just want you guys to understand that because so some of you in this room that have never really thought about that possibility. Like I was going to lose the office you're just thinking I'm going to go open and rock and roll, and I hope every single one of you do, and every single one of you should. I didn't. I was standing in my daughter's bedroom, newborn baby. She's in her crib, and I'm crying with my wife because it's over. We're losing everything. We're losing the office, and I'm telling her that, and she looks at me, and she says, sweetie, I believe in you. I believe the things that you know to be true. I know they're true for me and myself, and I've seen them happen in our life and our family. Just go, it's going to sound so simple, just go tell them the truth. Have you guys ever been on like a roundabout? You know, like if you've been like, you know, they have them here, but like Europe and stuff like that, you go around, you know, these like 14 turnoffs, right? Like depending on where you're going. The only reason a roundabout exists is because there's all these other ways off. Like if you know where you're going, really, you just want to drive over that damn roundabout, right? Not deal with those people trying to figure out. You just want, I'm going to that one. I know where I'm going. I don't need all the rest of these. The principle is the same thing. We don't need a roundabout in chiropractic. There's not a lot to discuss. There's get the big idea, all else follows. Teach above, down, inside out. And here's the point. Relentlessly teach it. So I was on, and I don't want this for you, but I was on my knees, literally, metaphorically, I was on my knees. I had been brought to my knees because I was not able to communicate with the public, the desperate, dying, in need, medical model, sick, suffering, subluxated public, how to integrate that into their lives. I was not able to do that. I wasn't doing that. So I made that decision to do that. Went in my office, and I kind of feel like, you know, for me, it's almost like, it was like you were surrounded by the troops. You knew you weren't gonna make it out, but you were gonna go down in a blaze of glory, right? BJ says, right, the uninhibited, be uninhibited, be the uninhibited man, right? And so for me, it forced that. It forced that to be the uninhibited man or woman teaching the principle. I made a decision that I would make my recommendations, and I would communicate with each person as if they're my mother, father, brother, sister, son, or daughter. My care recommendations would be exactly what I would give to my mom, to my dad. Exactly what I would say to them. It had to be. It was where I had been brought to. Now, it should always have been. I think we would all understand that or agree with that. But I wasn't. But I decided now that's what would happen. And since I was still nervous at some level about it, I would just say that. I'm going to give you the recommendations I would give to my mom. Is that okay? Well, of course they would say yes. All right? Just so you can see what happens when you do that. I went from 80 visits a week, insurance, half of which were probably collected, to 1,000 visits a week, all cash, in 18 months. The only thing that changed was I committed to relentlessly, right? Relentlessly teaching the principle. Relentlessly. My 5-year-old son, I have a son as well. My 5-year-old son just learned how to ride a bike, right? And those of you that have taught people how to ride a bike, what do you do when somebody's learning how to ride the bike? When they get the training wheels off, right? Like, you follow them behind like this, right? It's a goofy little deal. You do it in private, hopefully, right? As you're chasing them around like that, screaming. But that's what you do. And now, why are you doing that? Because you don't want them to fall and get hurt. You know they will because they're learning. It's part of it. But you don't want them to get hurt. You want them to learn. So for us, it's the same thing. I feel almost in practice, it's this. You have the new family that kind of said yes to your care, but you know they don't yet own the vitalistic principle for their life, right? They don't yet have the big idea, or they would never leave, of course. So we can only assume that they didn't get it. What did BJ say? Get the big idea, all as follows. And they asked BJ, they said, has anybody ever got, listen, they said to BJ, has anybody ever got the big idea and lost it? They said, BJ, has anyone ever got the big idea and lost it? Does you know what he said? Then they never had it. Then they never had it. Then they never had it. We have a perfect principle that's not ours. Here before us will be here after us. That we have the job, the privilege, the honor to relentlessly teach a sick, suffering public the truth about health and healing. And when you do that, all else follows. Thank you guys for having me. Bless you.